in Rio. But first to Bosnia, where in the last few days dramatic events have taken place, reversing months of Western efforts to ignore the continuing post-conflict problems in the Balkans. In the last 24 hours, the War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague sentenced Serb Dusan Tadic to 20 years in jail for crimes against humanity, the first Serb to be sentenced by the tribunal. This followed the first arrest in Bosnia of an indicted war criminal made only days ago, interestingly, by the British SAS.
Miko Kovakovic was taken into custody without a fight and was rushed to The Hague in the Netherlands, where he will stand trial.
Meanwhile, Simo Dreliacha was on his way to a restaurant when the SAS struck. When Dreliacha opened fire on the British soldiers, he was gunned down. Both Kovacevic and Dreliacha were accused of genocide for their role in setting up and running some of the most notorious death camps in Bosnia, where thousands of Muslims were allegedly tortured and murdered. Foreign correspondent Tony Jones has just returned from Bosnia, where he attempted to track down the two alleged war criminals. To say the least, filming was not easy. We should warn you that some of the pictures in Tony's report are pretty harrowing.
Većina moje familije je pobijena, odvedena u logor, Omarska, Trnopolje. Nema tragova da su živi. Međutim, jedan stric iz Starog Majdana, on je doveden ovdje u Sasinu i ubijen. Sin od drugog strica, on je na jedan zvjerski način, i to od svoga komšije, ubijen. Vezan je na traktor lancima i vučen je po, mi kažemo čaršija, po trgu.
The most constant companions of Dr. Samira Mesic are the dead. She is literally digging up evidence of genocide. In 1 year, 15 mass graves have been exhumed around Sanski Most.
Ovdje imamo 120 tijela. Znači, radi se o civilima, ženama. Najstarija žena je preko 94 godine, stara. Djeca su 13 godina. Djeca imamo mlađih žena do 20 godina i muškaraca. Strašni su zločini napravljeni na ovom terenu. Ovo je samo jedan dio što mi imamo.
How did these people die?
Što se tiče ovo sad što gledamo, to je, oni su vatrenim oružjem gađani i imamo elemenata nanošenjem tupotvrdim predmetom. Može ovako pokazati da se radi o muškarcu.
It's Dr. Mesic's job to identify the dead and to discover how they died.
Znači, ovdje se radi o muškarcu. Leš je skeletiran. Ostali su dijelovi kosti i dijelovi odjeće. Znači, ovdje se vidi tkanina. Samo su dijelovi, tu se ne može opisati kakva je tkanina, boja. Kod drugih se možda može. Zato jako je teško odgovoriti, identificirati tijelo, znate. Međutim, što se tiče ovdje povreda, ja mogu pokazati da su to kosti, duge kosti i da su tu povrede, to su prilomi nanešeni iz vatrenog oružja. Ne samo to, tu imamo povredu glave koja je nanešena isto iz vatrenog oružja. Vidite ovdje. Ovdje se vide njegove čizme, ostala je čarapa, dio stopala. I onda tu mjerimo na osnovu kosti.
Dr. Mesic is cataloguing the injuries and identifying the victims, not only for proper burial, but as evidence for the Hague War Crimes Tribunal.
Ovo je negdje srednja dob, starosti muškarci. Tadić Drago i on je pronađen zajedno sa ostalima u masovnoj grobnici Škrljevita. To je ovdje blizu Sanskog mosta.
As we drove into town, the list of the dead from the gravesite, finally identified by Dr. Mesic, was being read out on local radio.
Benić Sulejmana Nijaz, ubijen 9.10.1995. godine. Zulić Halila Muhamed, ubijen 9.10.1995. godine.
In Sanski Most, these lists have been broadcast regularly since work began to find the missing. The people here consider themselves survivors. Many of them only know each other because they met in the concentration camps of Omaska, Manjača, Karaturm and Trinopoli, all in nearby towns. We were here to meet the man who'd survived the camps and come back to prosecute those responsible for the killings. In May of 1992, Judge Adil Draganovic was arrested in his office and sent to Manjača along with 6,000 other civilian prisoners. He lived through the ordeal until the camp was shut down after international pressure. And when he finally got back to his office in 1995, he found documents the retreating Serbs had left behind.
Mi smo našli njihove dokumente kriznog štaba, sve ono što su planirali, dogovarali, to su sve zabilježili. Našao sam taj rokovnik u kojem je sve lijepo zacrtano, planirano koga ubiti, napad na ovo područje, na ovo, šta sa stanovništvom učiniti, preostalim, ali decidno se kaže koga treba uhapsiti i koga treba ubiti.
Using the documents and accounts of eyewitnesses, Judge Draganovic has overseen the exhumation of more than 700 bodies from secret grave sites like this one at Lanište.
Vjerojatno ste bili gore na Laništu, vidjeli ste onu jamu gdje su ubili oko 200 ljudi, bacili u tu jamu, sakrili to zemlju, misle da se nikad to neće otkriti.
Znamo, nemojte dok ne... Okreni onako kako to...
Investigators from The Hague assess the evidence and use it in indictments against men like the recently deceased Simo Drljača, the Prijedor police chief, whom the judge grew up with.
Jesam, Simo Drljača je ovdje rođen u Sanskom Mostu, ovdje je živio i zajedno smo studirali u Sarajevu.
Ajde, idemo u Trinopolje
i izvanredno smo se poznavali. Međutim, pokazao se kao jedan okrutni zločinac, najodgovorniji čovjek policije, odgovoran za likvidacije nekoliko hiljada prijedočana Bošnjaka i Hrvata.
Many of the people in Sanski Most are refugees from Prijedor, only 30 kilometres north, and the town with the highest concentration of indicted war criminals in Bosnia.
Omarska concentration camp is only a few kilometers from Prijedor town, near a little village called Omarska. The people who were in charge of that camp are still in the area. The same people who directed the atrocities during the war, who were responsible for the atrocities during the war, are still in charge or influencing the political events in the area, in the region.
Many of the people who can still unveil those stories, the witnesses to Bosnia's war crimes, have scattered across the world as refugees. They're living temporarily in cities like Munich, too scared to return to their own corner of Europe. Germany has taken more than 350,000 Bosnian refugees.
Kad ste vi otišli tamo iz...
Mrs. Sabiha Tukanovic is a survivor of the Omarska concentration camp. She will be a witness at the Hague war crimes trials of the men from Prijedor who ran the camp. Her husband was at Omarska too, and in those days the couple were separated from their children, who were imprisoned by the Serbs in another camp. They are Muslims from the town of Kozarac, and before the war they considered themselves well off.
Imali smo dvije velike kuće, još plus jednu što smo napravili za unuku malu. Ova velika kuća što je bila na 2 kata, plus dole restoran, kuhinja. Imali smo 3 kola u svom dvorištu. Da smo faktički sve svojih 30 godina braka, ja i on što smo radili, zarađivali, štedili, da smo to sve ostali.
In July 1992, the Tukanovics were taken to Omarska camp to join thousands of other Muslims imprisoned there. The old iron mine is infamous for the brutality of its guards, who were under the direction of their chief, Simo Drljača.
Da nemaju oni svjedoka. Međutim, izvede iz bijele kuće, izbaci. Od 7 do pola 8 navečer. Svako večer je išao jedan mali kamionić, žute boje, koji je vozio, kad se ide prema separaciji, prema pruzi, onda je išao lijevo. Mi smo ga pratili. On je tamo vozio te mrtvace. Mi smo mogli da vidimo, mi žene koje smo gledali kroz prozor, što uspijemo da vidimo, glave, ruke, noge, da vise dole. To su sve bili mrtvaci. Oni su njih izmučili. Možda je neko od njih i bio čak i živ, nije još ni umro, ali on je jedan preko drugog nabacao. Bilo ih je svako. Da je samo pregledati sad Omarsku, pa koliko bi se našlo grobnica naših ljudi i okolicu Omarske. Jer samo naviče, neki prosječno 10 neki je vozito, a Bog zna koliko ih je vožena naviče u tom kombiju.
The whole time in Omarska, they were under the direct authority of Simo Drljača.
Simo Drljača ga odlično znam jer kad sam...
There is no way known that they can get out until Simo Drljača signs them out.
Right.
He needed his signature for them to get out,
right,
to free country.
Ja mislim dok se god oni ne privedu u Hag i dok se njima ne bude sudilo i ono što su radili i svjesno i nesvjesno, dok ne budu odgovarali za to, mi ne možemo se vratiti tamo.
We went back to Bosnia, to the source of the problem. In Sarajevo, we sought out the man who's been one of the strongest advocates behind the scenes for the arrest of war criminals. And on the eve of his departure, as the second most powerful UN official in Bosnia, we spoke to Michael Steiner.
The international community must make up its mind what they want. If they really want Dayton to be implemented, this is an unavoidable issue.
We assume there are contingency plans to arrest these people.
This had been thought about. I don't want to go in the details. I don't think that would be wise. I'm convinced it can be done. It's a question of the political will.
That political will is about to be tested again after the intense reaction to the shooting of Simo Drljača. For the main targets, the real leaders of Republika Srpska, the indicted war criminals Karadzic and Mladic, will now be much more heavily protected. In the meantime, the people of the Bosnian diaspora are returning to a fractured country where the promises of Dayton are not being fulfilled.
Sulejmani Munevera. Mujkic Senija.
Again, the lists of people, this time of the living, followed by the intense relief of the displaced to be back amongst their families. 15-year-old Rafiq Shaban is reunited with his father, Mustafa. The family were cleansed from Prijedor by Druljača's police and imprisoned in the camps he ran at Omaska and Trinopoli and Karaturn. His mother never recovered from the experience. She died a refugee. They gave us an address in the destroyed outskirts of Sarajevo, out past the old front line that divided the western sector of the city. Here we found, playing in the rubble, a group of Muslim children from Srebrenica, survivors of yet another massacre. And like so many others, unable to return to their city. We found Mustafa Shaban and his son living with several other families in an undamaged house. It had survived unscathed because it was behind the Serb lines and owned by a Serb who'd left with her own people, fearing reprisals if she stayed.
Ja kad sam izašao iz Prijedora, ja sam izašao sa 5 člana, a vi sad sam ostao sa 3. Žena mi je umrla, punca mi je umrla tamo. Da.
Gdje? U
Makedoniji, ja. Šta je ona vidjela, to da ne govorim ja nikako.
Ubijanje i to, i gdje ženi srce oslabilo je.
Yet Mustafa told us he'd been reborn when his son came back because the boy represented a new life for his people.
Treba da kažem, ova zemlja sad ima potrebu sa ljudi koji imaju veću školu. Ima potrebu za te ljude. Zato što mnogi su poginuli koji su imali veću školu, koji su bili, na primjer, direktori, profesori razni, koji su bili sa školom. Želio bih sad da završim gimnaziju, želio bih da budem što veću, da imam školu.
Jer on je dobro malo prije rekao, jer dosta profesora, dosta inženjera, dosta ti, mislim, funkcionera da su poginuli. Ja govorim za Prijedor. Najviše su te tamo nastradali ti ljudi. Policajci, kriminalci, ovi koji su bili u kriminalnoj službi, inženjeri, doktori, profesori i tako.
We asked Mustafa if he'd ever be prepared to go back to Prijedor.
Mi sad, ja nemam gdje da se vratim. Gdje ću da se vratim? Srušeno. Pa srušeno je, normalno da je srušeno.
You have a number of participants in the crimes, and you have villages also around Prijedor where, and that's most frightening, many of the population have taken part, where it's not just some representatives, but where in some way everybody was involved in these crimes.
From Sanski Most, the UN runs a special bus service the short distance north to Prijedor. A few Muslim refugees from the town, overwhelmingly women, take the trip to visit relatives. Plainly afraid to make themselves conspicuous, none of the women on the bus would talk to us. But the knowledge that Prijedor had been a control centre of a string of concentration camps, and that the people who set them up and planned the ethnic cleansing still run the city, makes the trip a strange one. I felt sympathy for the women scurrying into town with their heads down. From the Hotel Prijedor, we began calling the city's bosses to seek interviews.
Dobar dan, doktora Kovačevića, molim vas, direktora.
By now, Simo Druljača held no official posts, though he reputedly headed a local mafia.
Dobar dan, da li je ured doktora Kovačevića?
We decided the best way to find him would be through his friend, Dr. Milan Kovačević, the hospital director who has now become the first indicted war criminal to be arrested by NATO troops. We were told he was out of town, and when we informed the police we planned to film in the nearby town of Kozarac, we suddenly drew the attention of Serbian state security. We're in a bit of strife here.
What's happened?
We just got a grilling from the state security guy. He doesn't want us to film in Kozarac. In fact, he says we can't film in Kozarac unless we get permission from Parley, from the Minister of Information, which we can't get.
Well, he's probably rung them already.
He's probably rung them. Yeah. Well, that was our welcome to Prijedor, that's for sure. We decided to go to Kozarac the next day. The Turkmenovich family in Munich had drawn us a map to their house in Kozarac, but we soon realised there wouldn't be much left to see. That's what remains of a mosque. Must have been a beautiful mosque too. Look at the tiles on it. There's nothing left of it now. Why did they destroy everything? They've razed the place to the ground.
If you destroy their houses, they have nowhere to live, then you're guaranteed more or less they won't come back because they have nothing to come back to.
It's quite eerie, actually, isn't it?
The classic tale was that they would start shelling, and to cause panic, they rounded them up and took most of the men to camps. They would have various collection centers not far from here where they would first move people and then decide what to do with them, because it's a big organizational task moving thousands of people. You know, it didn't happen haphazardly.
Then, in the midst of the destruction, a bizarre sight, an intact house with a flourishing rose garden. Sonia, ask this lady how it feels living here in such a nice house with a nice garden, but everything else is ruined.
Napravili ste mi zlo moj, ne tuđi. I ne mogu se preboliti nikako.
Her name was Mrs. Murgic, and she told us that her husband was a Croat, so her people, the Serbs, killed him. And they killed her only son too, because his blood was mixed. So now she tends her roses, apparently drifting in and out of sanity and dreaming of her lost neighbours.
Teško, umirem, za njima, umirem. Teško mi je. Bila su mi i braća i djeca i sve su mi bili. To je bilo čisto urodno, padantno. Nismo se mrzeli. Volili smo se kao komšije. Ruže su cvjetale. Burum na kafu. Oni meni, ja njima. Nismo osjećali neku naciju.
In Sanski Most, it was time to bury the dead. The people here say they still can't believe that this could have happened in Europe on the eve of the 21st century, or that the worst murderers could still be living free a short drive from here. And I find myself wondering if I were burying my wife, or my children, or my parents, or my sisters here today, or if these were my friends or my neighbours, if they had been dragged from their homes like many of these people in the middle of the night and slaughtered and thrown into a lonely pit, and I had survived. And I know deep down that there can be no peace here without justice, for without justice, the living will surely seek revenge. It is sometimes said of Bosnian Muslims that they hide their grief, but today it was etched into their faces. But even here, there were signs of the divisions that destroyed the old Bosnia. The black-draped coffins of the Catholic Croats were kept apart from the green-covered Muslim coffins, although they'd been together in death and were unearthed from the same pit. And I recalled what the pathologist, Dr. Mesic, had said when we asked her the religion of one of the dead. To me, this is just a man.
Tony Jones and the search for justice, rough or any other kind, in Bosnia.